Undertaker. They thought the 90s were buried, that the legends had turned to dust. But the multiverse has opened the coffin of nostalgia. Oh, the spirits of the squared circle are rising once more.
The darkness remembers. The echoes of the crowd still linger. From the golden age of the Titans to the chaos of the Attitude Era, the souls of the ring never rest. They whisper through the turnbuckles. They haunt the ropes, calling to those who still believe in the pain and the glory.
Oh, the power, the passion, the pain of the past. It lives, my Undertaker.
And now the geeks from the multiverse stand among the fallen, and together we shall raise the past from the grave. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
We're geeks from the multiverse. We've come to unite all geeks. Now it's time to get geeky and dive right in, 'cause we're geeks from the multiverse.
What's up, y'all, everybody? This is your boy, John, a.k.a. Captain Lestat here, and as always with me is Mr. Grumpy Beard.
What's up, everybody? AKA Undertaker, AKA Paul Bear over there.
Damn right. I was going to say this real quick. Matt and I were trying to make a very straight face at this entire time because I know when I went, oh, he was like, don't you dare start saying shit because I'm gonna lose
I can admit I almost lost it, and then I was like, no, refocus.
Focus.
That was just, I know that had nothing to do, I mean, it had a little bit to do with what we were talking about, but I mean, we could not do this episode right without doing an epic wrestling promo to open this episode, because we are talking wrestling craze from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I mean, wrestling, it's still a thing nowadays, but I think the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, wrestling was humongous.
Oh my God. I mean, literally, you look at it today and I look at, the fact that when you look at video games and stuff as well, it's like literally a night and day. Cause like I remember playing, SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain. And I remember
Raw versus SmackDown. Oh yeah.
right.
Dude.
And I'm like, those games were just like, oh my God. And like, you get to, be whatever you wanted to be. You could be a tag team champion. You could be the hardcore champion. Yeah. Again, hardcore, right? Cause that doesn't even exist anymore.
No.
So like there's all these things that especially during the 80s, the 90s, especially like that they created such a phenomenon that, yes, it transpired in the 2000s, but, you look at it now today, yeah, there's some superstars fine, but you're talking like Hulkamania. You're talking the Hulk Hogan. You're talking,
Oh, yeah, brother.
Randy Macho Man Savage. You're talking Jimmy Snuka. You're talking, Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Andre the Giant. Yeah.
I mean, Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, I could name these guys for days, but like these were the Iron Sheik, for God's sake. Like, there's so many names that they've transpired, wrestling, and especially during the 80s and the 90s, they just, Hulk Hogan, for God's sakes, left WWE, went over to ECW, started that whole thing, and just, not ECW, it was WCW.
Yeah, WCW.
And then, created a phenomenon, and it was a war between WWE, or really, I guess it was WWF at the time, but, again, it was a thing, and it was a feud, and so, like, now, you don't see that nowadays. Like, it's really just seeing, AEW, WWE, I think there's like TNA too or whatever. I don't know if they're still around, but like you have like those, but it's one of those things because WWE has really transpired wrestling for literally decades, and it's slowly, honestly, on a decline. And I think AEW and a few others are kind of like catching up. But that's what we're talking about here, because we're going to talk about the nostalgicness of how it actually started, and kind of like showing you like, hey, all these things that have come to play. Because like again, we'll mention him in a minute, but like Vince McMahon, back in the day, I know his dad started, I couldn't remember the original name of what WWE was, but like when he bought it and he changed it to WWF, like he created something that literally was basically the foundation of what wrestling is now, and how everything has been transpired. But I mean, like I was telling Matt earlier, like it's, wrestling. I mean, and it's crazy because actually Matt didn't. I don't know if Matt knows this or not, but like I remember a little while back, I actually got to meet Vince McMahon and Triple H, and I was walking down Meredith, New Hampshire, and all of a sudden I was walking with one of my, at the time I was girlfriend, but now ex-girlfriend, but we're walking, and then all of a sudden I just see them, and then all of a sudden, they're just sitting there like, "What are you looking at?" And I'm like, you don't know who those people are? They're like, "No," and I'm like, "Seriously? That's Vince McMahon. That's Triple H. Like that's crazy. Like they're just walking on the streets, whatever." And I got to meet him. I mean, again, I'm 6'6". Okay, these guys are probably 6'4", 6'5"ish. So but Vince McMahon, when I saw him in person, I have a photo. I can actually probably download it or upload it at some point. Dude's massive, like in person. Like you see him, I mean, his forearms were holy shit, like that, and his fucking. I mean, everything was like what you would see on TV, and even like Triple H. I mean, he again, like just a massive dude. But like, anyways, the point is
yeah, I actually saw Triple H, which is kind of a funny story. When I was working at CVS,
oh no shit,
in Manchester, this was a long time ago. But it was one of those like crazy stories. Like I was working there. It was like overnights pretty much. And I was coming out of the back room and I saw him coming out of one aisle and into another. And I was like, wait a minute.
That's not him, is it?
That can't be him.
Well,
and
this must have been what, like early 2000s?
Because like, I'm like, probably somewhere around there. And I'm like, because I'm basically like, I have this like dolly to the, like they're over like these,
like boxes, right, or something like that.
The basically bins. Like when CVS and stores like that, like you get bins, like the plastic bins.
Yeah.
But they were over my head, and I'm bringing them out to an aisle to like stock shelves, and I almost dropped them because I was like, holy shit, like this is
the real thing. This is the real thing,
so,
right?
Like
now.
I put them down, and I was like walking, like I walked past like the aisle, and I was like, holy shit, that is Triple H. And literally, I was walking around, and like the people that were working in the store were nowhere to be seen. Nowhere.
They're probably taking
unbeknownst to me. The CVS in Manchester over by Mammoth Road.
Oh yeah, okay. Now
used to have this like upper area where there was like a big mirrored thing.
Yeah.
They were all up there watching.
Down
the
below.
Store, and they were watching Triple H just walk around the store, shop, like buying necessities. And he goes up to like the photo counter. They're still like up there watching, and I'm trying to stock shelves. Like I wasn't a cashier. Like
you're just a stock boy, basically.
And so he's like up there ready to cash out, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'll do like I guess I'll do it. And I ended up like cashing him out, and I'm like, yeah, you all set, sir?
All casual, like I mean,
it was like.
So I was just gonna say this. So I didn't even tell you this part. So like when I first saw them, I basically, the way it was is that I was actually with my it was my girlfriend's brother, little brother at the time, and so I was like, hey, I'm gonna use you to get to them. So I brought him over with me, and I was like, here, come on, just follow along. So I'm walking up, and I'm like, hey, I know he was telling me he's like a huge fan, and I'm kind of like nonchalantly saying like, I'm actually kind of like a really big fan of both of you, but like, I was using him as like a, like, hey, let me get in here kind of a thing. And so
like a little buffer,
like a little buffer, and then they're like, oh, hey, did you, they're like, do you want to take a photo or something? I'm like, oh, that would be yes, absolutely. And so like, I said, hey guys, here, can you take the photo? And I'm just like, yeah, like giggly and like, yeah, and I'm smiling and, but again, like for me, it was just like that one of the moments. And I remember posting it and everyone's like, that's not Triple H. I'm like, bitch, like that's Triple, like he was, so it was actually when he shaved his head. That wasn't when,
right.
I'm wondering when you saw him, if he had his hair.
Oh no, he had his hair.
Okay,
yeah.
so
he had his hair and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So like Vince,
I saw him a second time in CVS too. Yeah.
Did you really good?
I saw him a second time, and the second time is when Stephanie McMahon was with him.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, so Stephanie and him were both in the store, and they didn't. I think they went to the pharmacy and they bought a couple other things. I didn't catch them out that time, but I saw them both, and I was like, "Oh shit, they're both in here again!"
Like,
I was
fuck.
like, "Yeah."
It'd be like nonchalant. Hey, you're hot, and then walk away. It'd be like, wait, who said that? And I'm like, nobody. Just stuck on the shelf here.
But yeah, I mean, we're talking wrestling. We start in the '80s, so I mean, how could we not start by talking about Hulkamania in the '80s boom? Because I mean, it started with this rock and wrestling connection where really at the time it was the WWF, right? And they really hit mainstream with these MTV crossovers. I mean,
Hold on, before we go further, R.I.P. MTV. That's all I gotta say.
Hey.
We'll talk about that later.
we will be doing an MTV, the de-evolution of MTV, a little bit later on.
Yes, but like I said, go ahead.
Yes. But I mean, we had Cyndi Lauper in storylines. I mean, Mr. T was in the very first WrestleMania. They even had Liberace as a guest,
Which is weird because you're thinking of an
Yeah.
opera singer and you're just like, oh, I know I'm not gonna do the oh, I'm not doing that again. No.
no, let's not do that again. But Hulk Hogan really just becomes this like pulp culture superhero, right? Like we have his theme song, the Real American theme. He becomes like pretty much a sponsor for taking your vitamins and saying your prayers.
Saying your prayers. I'm sorry.
He did, and drinking milk. Like he basically was like the American spokesperson. Like drink your milk, and
Drink your milk, brother.
take your vitamins, say your prayers. But that's what he was doing in the '80s. Like he was like the cartoon mascot energy. Like he was that guy. Like
No, I mean absolutely.
basically Captain America in yellow spandex is what he was in the '80s.
I will say this though. I mean, the one thing I never understood is like because I know he actually had a little bit of hair on top at one point, and then all of a sudden you just see him literally have this giant ass bald spot, and then and that was the signature look is that he had the longer hair down to his like shoulders. But then I'm like, when did that technically? Because I don't remember like when did that actually start? Like when he was like balding on the like the top of his head because I know that was his iconic look for many years to come.
I think it was like that for a long time. I
thought-
in the '80s I was like 10. So
I understand, but I wasn't alive, Matt. So we've already established all this. I'm just saying.
I only watched really when I was old enough because I mean, between the '80s and '90s I was teens, so I don't really maybe late '80s, early '90s is when I really started watching it, and that was
Okay.
being older and watching it. But from what I remember, he always had that bald spot on the top of his head.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering. I didn't know.
Yeah. You did see later on when they did the rock and wrestling cartoon that was Hulk Hogan's. That was a Saturday morning.
Yep, good old classic Saturday morning cartoons.
The LJN Mattel action figures, if you remember those, these were the really really stiff. They were like, there's no way to explain it than just doing the pose because
Well, I know I know nobody could see him, but like I'm looking at it.
they were just like if you remember like kind of the old He-Man figures,
Yeah.
like the way that they were posed, they were just solid plastic.
Yeah, because they wouldn't move.
They
You just
were-
have to like jump them around and be like, okay.
They
Yeah,
were
brother.
they were just stiff as bricks. They had zero articulation, so you could not move the arms, you couldn't move the legs. But they had all the wrestlers that were popular in the '80s, and they were just everywhere. Like every kid had them.
Yeah, because they basically wanted to be him or be, any one of the wrestlers at that time. But I mean, technically, when you look at like an icon wrestler of the decade or really decades, he was one of, or at least he was the main face of WWE, or at least, sorry, of WWF at that time. And so like he was the golden boy. He was the poster boy of literally the wrestling scene. And so, I mean, I know for a fact, like I know later on, like he mentored the shit out of a lot of at least some of the up and coming wrestlers at that time, and like trying to like help them get to a certain point. I mean, they looked up to him, a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, this is the '80s was at the time the WWF was. You have to understand at the time wrestling wasn't like global, and it wasn't like it was.
No, it was only like national, like
it was regional. So
yeah, you're right.
You had certain regions. I mean, WWF was just getting big at this point, but you had certain before WWF really kind of became global like it is now. Wrestling was just in like certain regions. So you had a region here, you had a region there, you had a region there, and they all competed with each other. They weren't.
No, you're right. I mean,
they weren't connected.
Well, technically with Vince McMahon though, like I said, when he bought the company from his dad, I know it was basically like the Northeast region is what they were kind of like being in. Then of course there's like Midwest and there's like down south and then there's like Northwest. I don't know. Like there was all these different types of wrestling, federations.
I mean, you have NWA, you have AWA. You have all these different wrestling, companies and regions that have all their different wrestlers and here you have the WWF that's really just becoming huge.
Well, and it's funny because like when you look at them at this point, it's because I think it was like 1984-ish. I think it was around that time is when he bought it. But like, wrestling, of course, was a thing, and there's been wrestlers in the past and things like that. But like you're saying, what I was saying too about WWE now is that they've brought it, like you said, nationally and as well as internationally and all this other stuff. But these guys at the time were also trying to be innovative, and I think that was the key for them to survive because some of these other, wrestling federations are really just these companies. They weren't doing all that. They weren't even being inventive. They were doing the same old shit that basically everybody else was doing.
I mean, like I said, it was regional. So if you had like Southwest, they might only cover one state.
Well, I mean,
or two states. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they were national. It was just a small regional. If you had like say New England, it would only cover a New England region. You would have to go somewhere else to wrestle somewhere else. So you would have to take your New England Wrestling Alliance or whatever it's called,
right,
to go wrestle, the Southwest or the Southeast or
right, and
whatever that region is. But this is where when WWF decided to expand, they started buying out all these regional territories, and they became basically the Coke of wrestling. Like they
did. You're absolutely no. I mean, seriously. I mean, it was smart. Vince McMahon was smart in the sense, like you're right, because like I said, they weren't. If their ratings were doing so low, he was like, you know what, I got you, and then he like brought them in, and then that's all he kept doing. He just kept buying them out.
Come on board.
Yeah,
we'll buy you out. We'll buy you out, and then
some of the wrestlers, of course, just kind of came into WWF at the time, and then again, that's how you saw a lot of these superstars that we know now today.
Right.
And again, this is the things. But anyways.
And this is where that, like I say, the NWA, the AWA, like those territories start fading away. The WWF dominates nationally. A lot of those wrestlers come over to the WWF, and this is where the WWF, like wrestling, becomes more corporate and less local, because at the time wrestling was very local. Like you would go to for us, it would be the JFK. Like you would go to the JFK and you would watch. Like you wouldn't go to,
I wouldn't go to. I get right. I wouldn't go to like the TD Garden now, like to go do.
Right.
Like
you would not go to those places to see wrestling. You would go to, the JFK arena where it's a small little venue. You would go to small little venues that maybe hold 200 people,
right,
or 400 people. Not places that hold 4,000, 10,000 people. You would go to small little places, but now we have these corporate focus on, and this is like maybe mid 80s to.
I would probably even, I would say like maybe late 80s, maybe like very early 90s at this point. I mean, because like I would think a lot of at least the 80s, they were, kind of buying out, like we were saying about all the different wrestling companies and stuff. But like, so here we're going here real quick is like, some of the key wrestlers of the 80s.
Oh, and there's so many. I mean, we have a small list,
like I said, I've only mentioned a few of them, but like
there's so many.
There's so many, but like, again, we already have Hulk Hogan, right? We already know he was the face of the 80s, wore his red and yellow icon, slammed, Andre the Giant at, WrestleMania 3, which is still one of the most iconic matches of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we're talking about...
It wasn't just red and yellow, though. He also wore the black and white.
Yes, he did. Yes. Hold on. That was much later.
Much later, but still, NWO is still one of the greatest factions.
That is true. But we'll get there. But, I mean, with Andre the Giant, though, I'm going to mention him because I know I'm just gonna kind of move here, but yeah, yes, he was the immovable monster, but also the lovable, in Princess Bride. So yes, if you haven't seen Princess Bride, you better go watch it because I'm gonna tell you, it was actually I think it was the only film that he actually ever did, or if he did like a couple others, but like this was the most memorable one. But the funny thing about Andre the Giant is like, yes, you look at him, yes, he was a giant in a sense, in the fact that yes, he had giantism, he had this. I mean, the dude was massive. I mean, he was over, what was he, 7'4" or 5" or whatever the hell he was. I mean, but he was also 500 pounds.
Yeah, I want to say that they used to call him the ninth wonder of the world or something.
Yes. No, the eighth wonder. I think it was the eighth wonder. Oh no,
I think it was the ninth.
Was it ninth?
There are 8 wonders of the world.
Yeah, never mind. You're okay. You're right. I'm sorry. My bad. But anyways, like with him, it's like you look at this guy, and especially if you find a guy like that now. I mean, before I would think it would be like the Great Khali or something like of that same stature. But this guy back in that day,
probably the Big Show would be more.
Well,
but
yeah,
he was bigger than the Big Show, I think.
No, but no, he was no, but Andre, it's just he was one of those forces that yes, he was the perfect kind of villain with Hulk. Because they really matched each other well with their personalities. But Andre was just like, again, I would have loved. If I could ever go back in time and be like, yeah, let's go to WrestleMania 3 real quick and let's just take a look at this match. If I could see that in person, seeing the sweat, all that, the blood that, Hulk was having on his face and all this shit, I would love to see it, especially when you see him grab him and like the famous body slam that he did. Yeah. I mean, that is the iconic part, because back in that time frame, there was not too many wrestlers that could pick up this dude and slam his ass on the ground. So like, you'll see later on.
Well, maybe John Cena could.
Okay, hold on a second. So, yeah, he's like, maybe John, you can't see me. No, anyway. So no, but like, like I said, nowadays, like you were seeing, or at least in the early 2000s, you were seeing a lot of like John Cena, like, picking up like the Big Show and a few others that were like, holy shit, but anyways.
Well, and yes, say what you want. I mean, do wrestlers use steroids? Yes.
Yeah,
100% they do.
Back in the day, they did.
Back then, yes, they most certainly did. And do they today? Most certainly do. They do. Yes, I'm sure. I'm almost certain they do. But
that's all technically. I don't know. I'm not going into that.
We'll move on from that. But one of my favorites, and this guy, like, God love him, like, I have no idea what the hell he ever said in any of the promos that he ever did, because it's one of those things, like, I loved every single promo that this guy does, because you just never knew what he was going to say. And I watched one where he brings us like a literal broom into the interview, and like, Mean Gene, who's like, in the 80s, he was the interview guy. Like, he was
even the 90s, he was that too.
He was the guy. He brings this broom, and Gene's like, "What is this broom? Like, what are you doing?" He's like, "It's for sweeping the competition." Like,
I was waiting to see if you were going to do the voice or not.
But Macho Man Randy Savage, he's just like, so the flamboyant robes, the Miss Elizabeth storyline. I mean, he had an epic WrestleMania 3 match with Ricky the Steamboat. He just was the dude. Like, he was the guy. Like, every time you saw him, it was just so over the top. Like, he just was oh yeah, let me tell you this. Like, he just was that guy. Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I don't think I do his voice justice. Maybe like in short little stints.
Short stints. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, when you also saw him in, I know this is much later, but like, when you saw him in the, Sam Raimi's version of Spider-Man, when you're seeing him in that wrestling match, he's like, "Oh yeah, brother," and and he's like, "I'm gonna break your bones in half." You're just like looking at him, and you're like, even though he's much older at that point, you're just like, okay,
bone saw is ready.
Yeah, that's what it was. I couldn't remember the line, but like you just like, yeah, and he just like he like shows his teeth and everything. You're just like, yeah, that's him right there.
Bone saw is ready.
Anyways.
Macho Man was so cool, and I mean, obviously, most people probably, if you never watched him in the 80s, you know him from the Slim Jim commercials.
Oh, that's true.
That
was in the 90s, right?
He was the spokesperson for Slim Jim.
Yeah, and I think they do like a remake of that with some other dude, like kind of looks like him, but not really. Like,
yeah, I mean, they did another Slim Jim commercial where they were kind of doing like a a tribute to Randy Savage, where they were doing like, kind of a not like making fun of him, but they were kind of doing like the, kind of dressing like him and doing that kind of thing. But another one that also had these like really insane nonsense promos was the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, this guy, if you could encapsulate an energy drink into a person, it was the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, this guy, like, he would run into a promo and it would just be like, and then he would be gone. It would be like, what the fuck did he just say? Like, I don't even like. Like, this guy would talk about like clouds and lightning and fire, and then he would be gone, and you'd be like, what?
Well, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, too, about this guy, like, he never really talked as much.
No, it was shouting.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, he never really like actually had a talking voice. Like you're saying, he's like yelling. He's like
it was Christian Bale Batman voice. That's what it was.
I don't even want to. We're not going down that road because I'm not trying to do that.
And even like when he did his intro, he sprinted to the ring, and then when he would jump up onto the edge of the ring, and then he would just shake this. He would shake the ropes. Like, yeah, he was a crazy ass, like.
Oh yeah.
He was a bundle of energy, like.
Honestly, I was gonna say these next two. This one, I'll start with this one. Is Rowdy Roddy Piper. Rowdy Roddy. Sorry, Rowdy Roddy. Good old Piper here. So yes, the ultimate heel, bagpipes, Piper pits. Set the stage for promo segments. So this guy, I mean, I feel like he was just ballsy. Like that, I don't know how to best way to describe it. He definitely
was a heel. He was
but he definitely
was an asshole.
Yeah, right, but that's the thing though. So right, and that was the whole point of it, like with the heel part of it. Like, but it's like if you look at probably back then. I mean, if you look at like, I would even say like maybe the 90s or 2000s. I mean, when you saw like, yes, I'm gonna say this, and Matt does have a tattoo of this particular guy. The Rock, right? So when he started out, like he's supposed to be a good guy, but then he eventually turns into a heel. But like, I feel like he might have had like that same kind of essence of like taking him of Rowdy, because you had to be an asshole. You had to be the enemy to the people because when you have Hulk, and let's say he was versing Roddy over here, he didn't give a. He's like,
Piper, Piper was. He was such an asshole. Like, and Piper's Pit was like one of those like kind of interview talk show kind of things, but it was always a setup. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? It was always like he brought people on just to
beat the shit out of them,
just to set them up, and it was like he was such an asshole. But I mean, he's such an iconic figure in the '80s that you really can't overlook him as a wrestler and a figure in the '80s.
And I mean, even now, I mean, Ronda Rousey, who kind of took over the rowdy part of that, like, I mean, the fact that, you're taking a legend, you're using the name and you're allowed to use it. I mean, it says a lot about, that because, you're not seeing too many, especially wrestlers nowadays, like trying to like, I would say like if they're still alive, depending on some of them, like, you're not gonna be like, hey man, like this next guy is like, hey, can I use your name, the Snake? You know what I mean? Like, hey, can I, I'm a snake, just like to slither around, No, but this guy, no, Jake the Snake Roberts over here, no, he definitely was not like, I'm a snake, I'm just gonna slither around you. No, this guy was definitely a little bit more bizarre too because, again, he's got his cerebral, can you say that word, Matt? Because I clearly can't speak today. Cerebral, is that right? Is it cerebral?
Cerebral.
Oh my God. I don't know why I couldn't speak.
Jesus, dude.
Cerebral promos carried Damien the Python, terrified kids nationwide. Yes, because again, he's a live snake, okay? And he's holding him, but he uses the snake to his advantage. Like he would literally, if I'm not mistaken, like, yeah, he would like, I'm pretty sure there was sometimes I think in the matches, like he would actually like this, like the actual Python would actually like try to attack. Like
I mean, I think typically like what he would do is he would just rest him on like the chest.
Yeah, because again, a python, I mean, you're thinking that's a couple 100 pounds right there, depending on what it is.
Yeah, I mean, pythons they can bite, but they're typically not like a biting species of snake.
They swallow.
They typically would like constrict.
Well, no, but that's what I mean.
You know what I mean?
They constrict first. They basically lose the oxygen inside of them, but then all they do is they just swallow them up and basically decompose them inside the body. But no, I know what you're saying. But I mean, again, if you're having a live snake during a match, I think a lot of people would be like, is this am I gonna get bit right now? Like, you know, but I get it. I mean, I think for Jake though, I mean, his is weird because, like, you know, I'm thinking, what is it, like the 80s hair, the long down to like past your shoulders. You know, he's got basically no shirt on. I can't remember his pants. They were very shiny. I think like a different. It was like black and like maybe gold or some other colors, but like.
Yeah.
He definitely had some interesting vibes about him, but like again, another typical like 80s kind of wrestler. But again, I mean, he I don't even know if he really was a heel. I think he was more like your face, maybe. If I
mean,
had to take a guess. I don't really know.
I mean, he wasn't. I think he wasn't really like a. I mean, he was more of a face. He wasn't really like a heel or a face. But I mean, moving on from him. I mean, you had a lot of other ones in the '80s and ones that we probably won't really define.
Well,
but I mean,
it's hard to because
but you have guys like Junkyard Dog, right? We've heard Junkyard Dog. You had Superfly Jimmy Snuka. I mean, if you haven't heard of
that dude, hold on before we go any further. That dude, you want to talk about some of the moves that he used to do? I mean, the fact that he would stand on one edge of the post and then fly to the other one.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like his acrobatic skills were insane. But anyways, go ahead.
Shawn Michaels. I mean, he was in the
old Heartbreak Kid.
Yes,
I think it was late '80s, right? I think it was late '80s.
Well, in the early '80s, he was part of a tag team. That's why he wasn't just Shawn Michaels.
Okay.
But I mean, you had some of the later ones we'll get into, but I'm trying to think. Honky Tonk Man was 80s. Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man.
Oh yeah, the $1 Million Man, who would actually throw literal money at you.
Oh yeah,
and actually have, what was it called? It was his special match. Was it the $1 Million match, or it was like the million?
Well, because he had his own belt.
Right, I think it was the $1 Million bill or something.
He had his own belt. I'm trying to think of others.
Sergeant Slaughter would be one.
Sergeant Slaughter,
who was also, if you didn't fun fact know, yes, he was in G.I. Joe. He was also a part of that as well. And then you also have like the Iron Sheik was another one who was also a big heel as well in the 80s.
Nikolai Volkov.
Oh yeah, another.
He was the other guy that there was like the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov, and
the Russian. They had like it was basically the Middle East and actually I think at one point the fact that the Iron Sheik, because they made him this Iranian, that's what he was, or supposedly, they actually the crowd, if I'm not mistaken, actually booed him so much that they actually wanted to kill him or at least get him out of the ring. Like it was that bad. And especially Nikolai over here too, with him being a Russian, especially during that time frame, I will say that during this time frame, they really played into a lot of hate and racism, and especially what was going on in the world. They did a lot with the wrestlers, especially around that time frame.
Yeah, I mean they played a lot with what was going on within the world as far as
like political and anything, like any events that were literally happening. They're like, okay, how can we use this to our advantage? Vince McMahon said that in an actual interview. He was like, yeah, we're going to use the shit out of this, and we don't really care whether you hate us or not. Like, but they played into it, and most people did. And that was the whole vibe of what they were trying to do at that time. I guess the question is, do we do our next segment, or do we do Fix It or Nuke It?
Well, I'm trying to look at some others. I mean, you do have some tag teams. The Bushwhackers. You remember the Bushwhackers?
Oh, God. Especially,
remember when they used to walk in and they used to...
Yeah, that's stupid. Like, you know what was funny? I always remember that episode in Family Matters. And they Steve and Carl were, versing the Bushwhackers too. And
I'm trying to think, is like the Demolition Brothers? Was it the Demolition Brothers?
Maybe. That one I don't remember.
Yeah.
Remember the Bushwhacker those two were crazy as hell, and they were stupid looking, to be honest.
Earthquake.
It wasn't. Iron. Was it Iron Bundy? No. I was thinking Ted Bundy, but that's not his name.
George the Animal Steel.
Oh yeah. Oh, that dude. He was hairy as hell, man. Talk about hairy motherfucker.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh yes. Yeah.
He had
Hillbilly Jim. Is it his name? Hillbilly Jim.
Oh, I haven't seen him in here yet, but Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Okay.
Oh, Hillbilly Jim, yes.
Yeah, Hillbilly Jim was
yes,
another one.
yes,
Yep.
I see him. Honky Tonk Man. He was kind of like the Elvis impersonator guy.
Yep. Okay.
Hawk.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because you had Hawk and
Hawk, and then the other one.
yeah, they were tag team partners.
Hawk and Animal.
Animal, yes.
Yes.
Because they were it's a wrestler nowadays. It's Natalia Neidhart, right? The Neidhart brothers. Is that what they're? Yeah.
I believe so. I believe I think
Neidhart.
he was in the 80s, maybe in the I think he was in the 80s, but I believe it was IRS.
Oh, yeah.
Erwin R. Shyster.
Shyster.
Jesse the Body Ventura. How can we not mention
Oh my God, I didn't
Jesse
even
the
think about
Body?
it. That's right.
Jesus. Yeah.
Good old governor of California.
There's so freaking many. There's so many. I mean,
Mr. T originally was kind of in the
Junkyard
wrestling
Dog.
thing.
Kamala. He was like a black voodoo guy.
Yep.
Jimmy Snuka, we mentioned him. King Kong Bundy.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. King Kong Bundy.
Kong Bundy.
That dude was big. He
was
a massive dude. This dude was like almost sumo wrestler size in the sense of being a white guy.
Marty Jannetty. Marty Jannetty was the tag team partner of Shawn Michaels.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Volkov, Mr. Wonderful, Pat Patterson. He's a promoter now. Ric Flair.
Okay, hold on. Ready? Dusty Rhodes, American Dream.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Rick Steiner.
Yep.
The Repo Man. I love the Repo Man, dude. He came out with this like mask that he wore, and he had this like overcoat and like
God.
Razor Ramon.
Oh yeah. That's right.
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yep.
Scott Steiner.
Oh wait, Lou Albano, right? Wouldn't he be another one?
Yeah, he was. I think he was more of a promoter though.
What? He was a manager.
Yeah.
Mr. Fuji. Was it Fuji or was it?
He was a manager too.
Yeah, but is it Mr. Fuji though? Is that what his name was?
Yeah. He was a.
And then what the hell's his name? He was another manager too. He was another big, but he was a big promotional one. God damn it! And he had like a whole family of them. Hart. It was
Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart. Yes.
Sid Justice. Shawn Michaels. We already mentioned him. Sergeant Slaughter. Let's see. Rocky Johnson. That was.
Oh yes, Dwayne the Rock Johnson's father.
Yes.
Back in the day. Yes.
Tatanka.
The point is, boys and girls, there's so many that we could have mentioned, but
there's a lot. There's a lot. So we will go into our Fix It and Nuke It, and I don't have music for that, so we'll just go into the segment of Fix It and Nuke It.
Fix it
Or Nuke It. Yeah.
Anyway, he's like, all right, now shut up.
So we have our Fix It and Nuke It segment. Basically, we talk about either a movie or a TV show and discuss whether or not we should fix it or whether it should just be nuked and left alone.
So we're going to mention this real quick. So this is based off a video game, but it was also a movie, and this happened in 2006. So the video game is Dead or Alive, but they decided to make a actual movie, which I did actually watch, and I thought was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah,
and it was absolutely not the greatest movie of all time. But here it is. Ready? So this week, we're going to be talking about the cracking open of the radioactive dumpster fire that is DOA or Dead or Alive, a movie that is so allergic to logic it makes Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li look like Citizen Kane. Based on fighting game famous for the jiggling physics and zero plot, the film somehow thought, yeah, let's make that our foundation. And the result, a martial arts beach party with more than slow-mo than story. So the point of this game, and you know what, I'm going to say it as guys here, okay? Yes, when you played the game, like all you would see is basically these girls with basically big boobs and all these, and they would just be jiggling around and they're fighting and like, oh, and they're moaning and I'm like,
how did that go again?
No, I'm oh. Anyways,
no, we're not going there. No.
So like you're looking at them and you're like, oh my God, like is this really a fighting game? Like, and they made so many. That's the problem. They made so many Dead or Alive games. It's not even funny.
And yeah, the jiggling effects just get worse and worse. But let's dissect this.
So yes, the source material, right? So
never heard of her.
You're right. Never heard of her. So the Dead or Alive games have paper thin plots, which is absolutely the truth.
What?
What? They don't have anything? Yes, they don't. but at least they pretend to be about martial arts tournaments. The movie said nah and replaced all context with bikinis, wire foo, and a weird nano robot subplot that basically felt like ripped from a rejected Bond script. So the fact that, I mean, they basically took this movie and said, you know what? We're going to fuck it all up royally real quick. And we're not going to make anything about anything regarding even this source material that we have. Because at this point, I think they've only made like maybe a couple games, maybe at that time. But the fact that, if you're, I guess that you're talking about the essence of like Dead or Alive. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, unfortunately, you have to be the most creative person on the planet, or at least somebody who's going to understand what you could make with this. I mean, you're right. It's like if you took Mortal Kombat, kind of, I guess, in the movie, and then, you took like, Street Fighter, and you're trying to mix the two, and then you're just trying to make them really hot girls, and they're wearing bikinis, and they're fighting, and it's all the slow-mo shit, which is like, yeah, it's like the old, like, again, I would say like even the 90s or even 2000, especially 2000s.
Yeah.
Well, they're like, it's like the 360 turn angle, and they're like midair, like, ready to fight, and you're like, fight, and bam, and it just.
I mean, you
weird.
already took a bad game, a bad game with no plot, and you're trying to make a movie with a terrible plot already.
Yeah,
so
there's
not
nothing
good.
you
Yeah.
can do.
So the second thing is, it really has a tone whiplash, right? I mean, is it a parody? Is it action? Is it self-aware? I mean, nobody really knows. Not even the director. I mean, it jumps from ninja infiltration to beach volleyball, like someone spliced together two different movies in mid-edit.
I mean, in Matt's perspective, when it comes to editing, he'd be like, "What the fuck was this guy thinking when he was?"
I did watch this movie too, and when I was watching it, I was like, I don't understand this movie. Like, I truly don't understand this movie, because it does feel like
it's rushed.
The people that made this movie had no idea what movie they were making when they were making it. Like, it felt like there were 2 or 3 different directors. One just wanted to see girls in bikinis.
Right.
And then the other wanted a ninja movie. And then the other one was like, is this Matrix? What is going on? Like, what are we doing?
It's almost like if you took, what was I can't remember. It was like Spring Break, those Spring Break videos from back in the day. And it's like you take something like that, and then you took like all the like weird ninja movies from the day, and it's like, okay, let me just like somehow form these two together. And you're just like, but again, like you said, there's no plot, there's no nothing, there's nothing
and
to
the
go
poor
off
editor is like, we have all these shots. I'll just put them together somehow. I don't know.
Maybe I'll somehow fit it together and it makes sense, but no, nothing works in this. And then you got this character wasteland. Okay, so we'll start off with this one. So Kasumi, who the actress is Devin Aoki, looks the part, but has the emotional depth of a damp sponge. There we go. Tina, Christy, and Ayan, all reduced to outfits, not arcs. Meanwhile, Eric Roberts as the villain. Okay, he's wearing sunglasses, that basically record martial arts stats, is so cartoonishly bad. He basically makes Cobra Kai Sensei Kreese look like a grounded life coach. So I'm just like, you have all these characters, especially in like the games or whatever. I mean, the problem is, like we've already said, like the video games don't actually have a plot. You're really in a tournament and you're just fighting. It's not like if you're like, I know for me, like Tekken actually has a story plot. Mortal Kombat has a story plot.
Right.
Street Fighter has a story plot. Because they've done so well, they actually make it in each game. There's a reason why it's progressed for so long, and they actually make sense. They're just making a fucking game, and they're like, "Who's the hottest character we can make?" And that's how many times can we see their boobies jiggle? I mean, seriously, that's really the game.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's literally the game, and this is like they're in the movie. They're basically what it's saying. They're reduced to these outfits. They're not character arcs, and I mean, I feel bad for Eric Roberts, who has to play the villain in a terrible movie, because he's a great actor. Yeah. I mean, he's a really great actor, and he's reduced to this villain who is basically wearing sunglasses that just records martial arts stats, which, I mean, it's not really great martial arts either. So
no, they're not, because again, all you're seeing is slow mo. So like, is everything just basically slow mo around you? And it's like this whole island that they're on. Is it just like it somehow just freezes time in that one moment when they're fighting? Like, I don't get that. And then, I'll say this real quick. the visuals and the vision, right? So the movie looks like a 2000s music video that fell into a vat of Cheeto dust. It's got colors, flips, and sword fights, but zero weight. Even the CGI shuriken looked ashamed to be there. So,
Jesus.
I mean, when you're looking, I mean, it's not wrong. I mean, yes, it's like mid 2000s, but at this point, you're just like, what are we doing here? And what is the goal behind, what is going on here? So, I mean, I love the whole 2000s music video that fell into a vat of Cheeto dust. I mean, because there's nothing going on.
No, the visuals are terrible. The visuals are terrible. And this is like the last thing is, fan betrayal. I mean, fans wanted a wild martial arts tournament with over the top but competent fights. Instead, they got Charlie's Angels Ninja Edition minus the fun plus volleyball padding.
I mean, it's funny because I'm thinking about the game too. Because I remember my dad playing a while back, and I don't know which Dead or Alive it was. But I kid you not, I remember him playing, and literally he was like, "Yeah, I only bought this game because of the jiggly boobs." And I'm just like, "Well, no shit on that one." But I remember this because I do remember in the game there's a mode called Death Volleyball, and you would literally you would beat you play a volleyball game, but you're the whole point is right at the end, if you smack it as hard, they actually blow up and it's blood everywhere and all this other shit. So it's the most randomest thing. Yeah. So you're sitting there okay, so I'm playing a mode called Death Volleyball, but I guess the whole point of that is just to kill people right at the end. There's no purpose behind it. But
so, I mean, here's the thing: the verdict. Can we fix it? I would say maybe. And here's the thing: it would take a full reboot, not just a tune-up. And here's the thing: so there's 5 things, and I'll do the whole fix it if you want to take on the new kit.
All right.
If we fix it, and this is if we dare to even go fixing it, and I wouldn't even say fix it because it would take a full reboot to do this. One, we would need to treat this movie like John Wick meets Scott Pilgrim. We need to keep the stylized game logic, but make the fights crisp, brutal, and kinetic. We need to go R-rated with the visual flair using energy burst, hit effects straight from the games, but grounded in cinematic choreography. Right? That's the...
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you're looking at the whole John Wick kind of style.
But yes. It's also that Scott Pilgrim...
cartoon, the funny, cartoony kind of vibe with the whole death battles that they're doing as well. Yeah.
Real tournament, real stakes. That's the second thing. No secret spy island garbage. Just proper martial art, blood sport, each fighter with a backstory, a unique motivation, structure it like Mortal Kombat, the 2021, by the way, but with more personality and less exposition crap.
You didn't want to have Mortal Kombat back in 1990, what was it, 93?
Well, no, I mean, if you structure it more like the newer Mortal Kombat, and you give it, this tournament more stakes, there was no stakes in this movie.
They all came together and they're like, okay, I guess we're just a bunch of people doing whatever.
The third thing is build the characters, not just the bounce, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Don't just put characters in fucking bikinis and here's a beach, go play. Kasumi's brother storyline could be emotional gold. Betrayal, loss, redemption. Give her a heart. Give Tina her wrestling legacy arc. Give Christina her femme fatale edge. Make the women warriors not window dressing.
I mean, no, you're right.
It can't just be that. I mean, it should be that too, but it can't just be that. It can't just be a bunch of women like Baywatch, just slow running on the beach. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I was doing the pose, but go ahead.
Number 4, ditch the villain tech goggles. Eric Roberts' ninja stat glasses are unforgivable. Ditch the villain with someone grounded. Maybe a corrupt champion from a previous DOA tournament. Scarred and vengeful, not Bluetooth enabled.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, the thing about Dead or Alive is that it's supposed to be, I guess, more the modern day version of, we'll call it from Mortal Kombat, because Mortal Kombat, I guess, in some ways you could consider kind of older in that sense.
The game is called Dead or Alive.
No, I know, but in the movie, movie, you should actually have people die.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's called Dead or Alive, not just women fighting in bikinis on beaches and jiggling boobs.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
I mean,
Come
Matt,
on.
you already hit it right there. You already hit it on the top of the head right there. So you're good.
And now the last thing is style it like anime, shoot it like a martial arts classic. So embrace the absurd, visually stylized motion, freeze frames, neon lit arenas, but keep the story tight. Think Kill Bill meets Arcane. Like that's you style it in a certain way that's interesting and unique, but not just like, looking like it's on a cheap $150,000 budget like this movie clearly was.
No, so right here. So we're going to talk about the nuke in here, but let's be honest, right? So maybe this thing can't be saved. Maybe the only way to cleanse the sin is to hurl it off a cliff into a volcano while it plays its own, end credits in slow motion. Maybe that is true. Maybe we just go to like Mount Vesuvius or Mount Etna and be like, imagine this, right? So like Kasumi walks away from the explosion, volleyballs rain down like meteors. Eric Roberts' sunglasses melt midair, and the screen fades out with the words "game over," or something like that, right? I mean, correct. I think that with this movie, it should have never been made. Or basically at this point, if you were going to at least fix it, you would have had to do a revamp.
So that's the question. So, DOA, Dead or Alive, do we fix it into a real martial arts saga or nuke it like the radioactive beach trash it is?
Honestly, I mean, until they could actually figure out what the fuck the actual game's about, then I'd say you better nuke that shit.
I'd say nuke it.
But anyways, we're jumping right back into good old, in this case, the 90s.
This is my favorite era.
The 90s
era, yes. The attitude era.
So these guys, I'm going to tell you, these guys really defined a lot of this era. And especially some of the ones that we're mentioning. I know, like we've said before with the 80s, like there's definitely a lot of them. There's probably so many that I feel like we can't even encapsulate. Yeah, so but,
I mean, the 90s really when things had shifted, they kind of reinvigorated the WWE. It became more of a global.
Well, yes,
more of a national thing. I don't know if they were really global at the time, but
no. But I will say this: there's a difference between this era and the '80s era. So the '80s era was very more family friendly. Okay, I will say that to a degree, it was more family friendly than what the '90s was going to bring in. Because the '90s, on the other hand, it brought in a whole wave of shit.
Oh yeah, this was the Attitude Era is basically what you. I mean, you have
it was basically 80s on steroids, but basically
you have bra and panty matches. You have Austin driving beer trucks into the arenas, and
Generation X, for God's sakes.
Yeah, they're doing the cross chops and
I mean, there's all kinds of shit. But jumping in real quick,
Val Venus and his
his Speedo, basically.
He was wearing his towel and doing all kinds of sexual promos.
Yeah. Well,
the Attitude Era was something way different than
Val Venus,
the 80s.
No, I know, but Val Venus is like, I'm pretty sure like his like entrance, like it was pretty. I mean, it was pretty risque, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Val Venus's whole gimmick was that he was like this like porn star kind of character. So I mean, the Attitude Era was radically different, and they also, this whole like era did play on a lot of different gimmicks. You did have, the D-Generation X where, it was really like Generation X, like we're a bunch of degenerates. Like that was where that whole thing came from. And you had the Nation of Domination, which was like kind of like your.
No, I'll say it.
Your Black Power type of thing. Yeah. They played on that kind of gimmick. So there was like a lot of these, teams and things that they were playing on during this time frame, and it was like a lot of sexual things in this time frame, like
much sexual things. Yes. Yeah. So like going into this real quick, so we got Stone Cold Steve Austin. This guy, even when he first started, this dude had hair. He had all kinds of things going for him, but he literally actually at one point actually didn't even know if he was going to continue to wrestle because his character alone was not even getting the ratings and getting all this. He actually was thinking about quitting, but then somebody like mentioned, I think it was his wife at the time. He's like, "Oh, what if we make a character that was like someone from like, again, Texas and all this stuff?" And he's like, "Oh, I got to think of like something cool and some gimmicky." So I know like eventually they came up with the name Stone Cold Steve Austin, and like, again, so Austin, it was 316 was his like
Yeah, Austin 316.
Was it 316? Well, yeah.
Yeah, and then he said, he gave that line like Austin 316 says I just whooped your ass.
Yes, you're right. So like
and he said that on camera, and it was like everybody was like Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. And
he's like,
it was like
I had 1 beer. And then 2 beers, and then 3 beers, and he kept going, and he's like, wait, hold on, and then I got another beer, and he's just like, but it's funny because like his promos are just like him when he's in the ring, man, he could talk. He was one of those guys that you want to hear what.
And his feud with Vince McMahon was epic, huge. Dude. It was epic, and he defined rebellion. He defined like the anti-authority because
he was a leader, man.
He just mirrored like that grunge, like MTV, the South Park, like he mirrored what was going on with like pop culture at the time.
Oh no, I mean he again, like if you've never heard of this guy, you were living under a rock at this point.
I mean the way he would just give stunners to just everybody, like he'd go to shake their hand and then boom,
he's like gotcha, and then it'll just be bouncing around, especially Vince McMahon. I couldn't tell you how many times he got stunned.
And beer trucks for days.
Oh my god, I remember that one time. I think it was Vince McMahon and a couple others that were in the ring, and he comes out and he's just driving a good old beer truck, and then he comes out and I think there was a cannon on top.
Oh yeah,
and he sprays the shit out of them.
Yeah, he sprayed the shit out of them.
And so you know what? I'm gonna let Matt do this one because I know he's like iffy, but I know back in the day this was
back
one of
in
his
the day. I always say as an actor I'm not a huge fan.
Yes,
but as a wrestler I have the tattoo.
I mean, for God's sakes, it's on his body.
It's on my body, and I have the belt sitting on our table right now.
Yes, that's true.
The classic WWE Championship belt.
Yes, before it became
So The Rock. I mean, he was the charismatic promo god. If you smell
what the Rock is cooking.
Yes. And the know your role and shut your mouth.
He's like, what's your name? He's like, so and so. And he's like, well, I don't give a shit. Or he's like, I don't care what your name is. And he would just go on. But like I'm telling you.
And jabroni. I mean, he was the jabroni.
No, I know that. But I want to say this. You want to talk about like sarcasm even to like the next level. I mean, this dude could literally take you and pick you apart on the scene, like right as it was happening. And a
lot of his promos were on the fly. Like he would come up with this stuff on the fly. Like
it was not scripted. It was right then and there. And there was no, like, so with him and like Triple H, like those two, especially at the time.
And you want to talk early meme culture before memes even existed?
He was the meme.
Yes. He was probably one of the most, I mean, Austin was, and The Rock definitely was.
When he calls himself the electrifying, entertainer, basically, it's like that was it, man, especially during that.
I mean, The Rock was, when he did promos, I mean, he was like the blueprint for wrestling promos. I mean, people wanted to mimic what he was doing because he, yes, he was like the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. Like, he just was, like, he embodied what was like.
Well, and you think about it too. I mean, he comes from a long line of wrestling, like the family itself, the Inoue wrestling, basically. And so, like when it was the High Chief, sorry, Peter Maivia, when you have all these other,
and Rocky Johnson,
Johnson, and then you have there's so many others. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head. But anyways, like he comes from a long line of them, and I mean, even now there's a lot of wrestlers from the same exact family still doing it to this day. But the fact that you look at this guy. And, especially back in the day, because I remember when he had his, before, I'll even say before he decided to like, go bald and do all that. But like in the very beginning, he had a weird gimmick. Like there was no like gimmick that he had.
He had this like weird,
he looked like basically like a Samoan.
Yeah.
It was like a Samoan tribe individual and just like had like the.
And he wasn't as big. Like he wasn't as big. And then when he decided to come out like as The Rock, he was fucking huge, dude.
No, I mean, when he switched his persona, I think that was the thing is like, just like with Stone Cold, like he had to figure out what his thing was. And so like he did that. And I know he was a part of Domination or
he became a part of the Nation of Domination, but I don't know if that was in the 90s or if that was in the 2000s.
That was so he started in the 90s. I know that. And I think it was early in his career because that's when he had that stupid gimmick at that time. And then I know he left the tribe and he actually, the Nation of Domination, like left him and then became his own thing.
Right.
But like he just, like I said, he's just one of those guys that if you never heard of him either, You were living under
Oh my
a rock.
gosh, yeah. DX, I love DX. DX was the faction that I loved the most. I mean, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Chyna, like they were the founding people of DX, and it was basically because at the time, like Triple H before this was pretty serious. Like he was a serious like.
Well, Triple H. Hold on, before we even go further, Triple H in the very beginning, he was very gentleman-like. He was like supposed to be this English,
He before he took on the Triple H kind of mantle, he was Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and he played this kind of like rich debutante kind of character.
Right.
And then when he just became Triple H, he started really just kind of like taking on this badass kind of role. But like as the 90s kind of progressed and they really were starting this like, D-Generation X, it was really like Shawn Michaels and him and Chyna. I mean, Chyna was kind of this like badass chick.
Well, she was also, let me rephrase that. She's not only a badass chick. I mean, she was fighting in, I believe, what is it?
Well, she was fighting men.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think she was one of the first female wrestlers to fight in, what the hell is it called? It's like when they have like 6 people in the ring and then they like start bringing in more people like every like 5-10 minutes. I'm trying to remember what that match is called.
The Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble. Thank you.
Yeah.
So like she was one of the first ones to be in a Royal Rumble, which is crazy because like she was beating the shit out of these guys and they're all afraid of her.
But the thing is, like Triple H and Shawn Michaels were doing all of this like funny shit.
Oh yeah.
And the WWF at the time was saying like, you guys can't do this shit. Like you can't act like this on TV.
And they're like,
and
we
they're
don't
like,
care.
What do you mean?
Right.
And then they kept pushing the envelope. Like they kept pushing the envelope, and then they finally were like, we're degenerates. And they just kept pushing the envelope, and they were like, they actually came out and like they did like a whole episode like, we're not allowed to say, and I think they had it like on a card or something. Like, we're not allowed to say this word.
Yeah.
And we're not allowed to say this
word.
Like,
right. No. And
they just like pushed the envelope so much that it was just DX was so funny back in the day. And then they eventually added Road Dogg. They added Billy Gunn. They added X-Pac.
Yes. That's right.
So, and their whole thing was like the cross chops with the suck it. They had the chance. They were just. It was like every middle schooler got suspended because of DX because they were like, "Suck it,"
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Okay, now you're suspended."
And now you're suspended.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Kayfabe, if I had to look it up, or I remember a while back, it was basically like the difference between. I know it had something to do with like when you're wrestling. I think it like I'm not saying breaking the fourth wall. You know what I'm saying? I think it was like it had to keep kind of like the wrestling kind of like script and stuff like that. I think that's kind of what it is. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
it's the portrayal of staged elements within professional wrestling as genuine or real. It's an unspoken agreement between wrestlers and fans to maintain the pretense of the fictional world of wrestling where storylines, rivalries, and characters are presented as if they are real, while originating in wrestling the term has expanded to describe any situation where there is a tacit agreement to present something as genuine when it is not.
Right. And I think that was I had to remember correctly because that was that's been a big thing for a long time, at least back then. But like, you're looking at these guys, right? And I mean, you're right. I can't even think of many factions that were that popular besides I would say NWO, during that time. But even NWO at that time was also in, WCW at the time when Hulk Hogan left and he went over to WCW. But like these guys for WWE purposes, like they were that crew, so like when you have all these factions or these people that are coming together and doing all this, I mean, they just made the blueprint for literally what basically factions would look like down the road.
Yeah.
But going into the next guy, this guy was something else with his stupid sock puppet. That's all I'm going to say. So this guy, Mick Foley, he's also been known as 3 other names here. We got Mankind, which that's what I meant by the sock puppet. You got Cactus Jack and Dude Love. So this is the hardcore legend, which literally I'm pretty sure I don't know if I don't think he was the last one to have the hardcore belt, but like he definitely this dude would take anything, like a sledgehammer,
anything
a chair.
Yeah, he had the anything goes vibe. I mean,
he didn't give a shit.
Undertaker versus Mick Foley. I mean, I think he was Mankind.
Yes, with his mask and
yeah, it was Undertaker versus Mankind in a Hell in a Cell, and Undertaker choke slammed him off of the cell into the announcer's table to the floor.
Yeah, this dude, and then eventually he got up, but I mean, it was insane that you're watching him do this.
You're watching this, and it's like, no. Oh, I think he's dead.
Well, no, but again, this was all scripted. This was all scripted, and you're sitting there like, there's no way in hell he would have survived that. And you're sitting there, nope. He I mean, granted, it took him probably a while to get up, but I'm just like, that's crazy.
Well, and I think in the same match, he did the same thing. Like I don't know if it was either before this or after this, but I think he had chokeslammed him again through the top.
Yes.
And he fell through the cage and landed in the ring.
Yeah, but I mean, I think at that point, I mean, no offense, I don't think many people would want to get up at that point. But I mean, this guy, right? Even though he had multiple personas, all the ridiculous but loved, he again having that embodied like anything goes vibe of attitude. I mean, this guy, Mick Foley, if I'm not mistaken, like he actually taught The Rock quite a few things early on in his career because he knew that he could be, one of the greatest in wrestling history. And so Mick Foley, even though like even now, like I know he was a manager much later on. I think it was like SmackDown or Raw. I think it was Raw. Like he's a great mentor. He's just one of those lovable guys. You're looking at him like he just had that spirit about him. And then like I said, the stupid sock puppet, I never understood it. I know that his famous move was he'd take the hand and he would like hold his other hand and he'd go, yeah. But he would go into their mouth.
He had this like move where he would, it was like inside the mouth, but it was like the two middle fingers. And that was just like Mankind's move.
Yeah, he's like, oh, got him, and it just looked weird to me. But
kind of going in here because we still got 2000s to get through and some other crazy gimmicks to get through. So I'll get through the rest of this so we can get to the 2000s. But we have the Monday Night Wars, which was crazy because at the time WCW wasn't really. I mean, it was popular for a while and then it wasn't. But WWF and WCW was on Mondays, every Monday, and they had this huge like rivalry going on.
Oh yeah.
For a long time, it was
Eric
WCW,
Bischoff.
And then it was WWF. It was WCW. It was WWF. WCW's. It was Monday Nitro.
Yes, it was.
And then WWF had Monday Night Raw. But WWCW's NWO, which was Hogan, Hall, and Nash. Scott Hall, which was also Razor Ramon.
Yes,
and then Kevin Nash, which he was also in the WWF as Diesel.
Yep.
Goldberg was also part of it. He created legit competition. I mean, NWO, you could say, was as big of a faction as DX was at the time.
Well, that's what I mean. Like you have those two kind of factions going at, I'm not saying at each other, but they I think at one point they did verse each other. I don't know if they.
I don't think they ever did.
Did they? I thought they did.
But it's one of those things like it forced the WWF to kind of go edgier. They were much dirtier. I mean, they had the bra and panties matches. They were definitely much more sexual and much more like edgier and much more funnier. And we saw DX like actually doing like a whole episode where they were going outside the arena where they were taping the WCW trying to get in. They were trying to get in. It was pretty funny. But the tangent here is like, what if WCW actually had beaten Vince long term?
I mean, and the thing was, I think Vince actually realized that there was a time where he really thought that was going to be the case. But then Eric Bischoff, who owned WCW, really kind of like it was weird. He had that strange formula because at that time, like WCW was so. Like it was dirtier, it was edgier at that time, and they noticed that WWF at that time, like we were mentioning, they just didn't have that vibe. And so yes, I mean, if Vince didn't have that rivalry, I think part of where we see like this and like the 2000s, I don't think those would have thrived the way they did if that was really the case.
I mean, it's hard to say because I mean WWF obviously bought WCW
eventually, yes,
and I mean it became much bigger. So ECW,
Oh, this guy.
this was the Extreme Wrestling. They had weapons. They had hardcore matches. They pushed WWF and the WCW to up the violence. And this is where, I mean, we have more of those chaos filtered into the video games. Like we have WWF No Mercy. We have those SmackDown.
Like here comes the pain, you know. And
Yes,
yeah.
we have those games. But ECW definitely influenced the WWF/WWE with the hardcore championships. They have, I mean, obviously you can see clearly with when we talked about, you know, Mankind and the Undertaker's match. I mean, we wouldn't have that match without ECW.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he had matches where there were literal thumbtacks that he was choke slammed on, and you can see him in his face and his arms, and it's like, oh my gosh, like that's ECW.
Well, right. And then when you're looking at, again, so Paul Heyman, that's then, again, he was the one that created ECW, but like he challenged, you're right. He challenged, and it's funny when you look at him now, he's much more calm, but like in that time frame, oh my God, he was just as bad as probably Vince, I think, in the same level. And it's funny how all three of them at one point actually sat in the middle of a WWF ring, and they were all trying to like negotiate like certain things, and they're like, okay, let's try to make each other up here. And like Paul Heyman's trying to get these two together, and you're just sitting there like, why do you want these two to get together? That's not really the point here. We're
very early on, my dad and I went to an ECW. This was like before, you know, like WCW and WWF were like combined and everything. Yeah. But we went to an ECW match at the JFK.
Oh God.
And some of those wrestlers, like, they were full swearing.
Oh, yeah. How old were you at this point?
I mean, it was like late 90s, so I was probably like just...
Oh, so you were, okay, so like 18, 19 maybe?
Yeah. But they, like I said, they were like full swearing. I think like one of the wrestlers like was talking to, like he had just lost a match because of his manager.
Yeah.
Who was like, I don't know if it was like his like they were dating. Like, I don't know what the deal was with them, but he was like, come here, cunt. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm like a young kid, and I'm like, what am I watching right now?
So
like,
we're going to say this real quick. Matt's not going to condone the actual words.
No, here, but I was shocked because like I'm like, this is ECW, right? Like I figured it was like the same as WWF or WCW, no. And like he was just vicious to this. Like he was beating the crap out of her on this, in the ring, and he used the C word multiple times, and I'm sitting there going, what is happening right now? Because and like no one is stopping it. Like I don't know if he was like legitimately pissed or if it was part of the show. Well, but like I'm like, as like a 18, 19, I'm like, what the hell?
What is this okay?
Is this okay here? Is he supposed to be swearing like this? Like,
I mean, it's crazy to think.
I'm awkward right now.
You're like, I don't know what's going on. No, but I mean, you're right though. I mean, it's sad. I guess in that time frame, like where a lot. If you think about it, there really wasn't a whole lot of female wrestlers or big ones. I guess if you want to say, because a lot of them, you're right, were managers or they were doing other things, but they weren't really prime time.
No, I feel like the 90s. I mean, there were a lot of good female wrestlers, but I feel like the female, like the women wrestling part of the WWE in the 90s was all about the TNA, like the tits and the ass. Like,
no, you're right. Yeah, absolutely correct.
Do I think like the women's championship and that there were like legitimate wrestlers? Yes, I do think that there were legitimate wrestlers, but when you have a lot of like, panties matches and well, it was more so like, yes, you have Sable, you have like, you have
Wilson, and
you have these like really hot women, but it was more of like the tits in the ass. Like you're looking at these women, and it's like, is it different now? Sure, because
they're much different now.
They're not all hot.
No, but like I will say that the 2000s. I mean, we'll get there in a minute, but like the 2000s really elevated the women's wrestling piece of this. But we'll get to that in a minute. But go ahead, because I know you're going to talk about this next part, at least the other stars here.
Yeah, I do want to just talk on, because we do have to. We're getting to the point of we should be done pretty soon, but we would be at a miss if we did not talk about the Undertaker. I mean, we did our whole promo on the Undertaker
and Paul Bearer, but yeah,
the Undertaker was, especially. I mean, he debuted in the 90s, but
actually, no, I think he was late 80s.
he was around, but I mean, in the 90s, he was just epic. Like, to me, like, The Undertaker, I mean, I know he's way too old to wrestle now, but he was always like the wrestler to me. Like, that was always like one of my favorites. And he will always be, he was always like one of my favorites. Like, I always loved seeing the promos, like, there were promos that he did in the early 90s that was like, you see Paul Bearer and then you see him like with like the carpenter tools, and he's making caskets and coffins.
Yeah,
and
it just did he like etch the names of certain people or something like that too?
Yeah, he brought the coffin matches into the WWE, like the casket matches. Like, he brought this like dark supernatural gimmick that was just terrifying.
I mean, and my other favorite thing is once he reinvented himself back in like the early 2000s, he was like, I love the intros. Dead man walking, and then he rides in on a fucking motorcycle and he goes down, and it's just like, oh my god! But again, the difference.
I didn't like that one as much as I. Well,
I mean, I do, but I do feel like when he because he had to reinvent himself every so often. I feel like, I know you may not have liked it, but I did kind of. It was interesting to see him in that biker kind of outfit. I know that's just me though, but anyway.
I would have really liked to see them do. I mean, not like a new Undertaker, but like how the darkness never really leaves, and like doing a new. A kind of a newer Undertaker kind of a persona.
Yeah, I mean, correct. I mean, they did technically once they brought him back to like his iconic hat and then like his overcoat.
No, I mean like nowadays. Not like because they did like kill him off, and then like later on they'll like
they brought him back.
They kind of resurrect him, and then like they kill him off again. Like, he's kind of like Michael Myers.
Hey, it's like the Michael Myers story.
But you also have Kane. He also debuted in the 90s. When they debuted him, he was Undertaker's brother, who died in a fire apparently, but he was not dead. And then Kurt Angle. I mean, there's a lot that we could mention, but
this guy. I mean, I know he played a really good idiot.
He debuted in 1999.
Yes, this guy. I mean, I will say this: he is. Olympically wise, I mean, yeah, okay, he's fine. But my point is, like, he is a good wrestler. I'm not saying he's not, but like when he first started, he was an idiot. Like, I know or let me rephrase that. He played a really good idiot.
He played a good idiot.
But then he got older and wiser, and then it just kind of turned for what it is. But anyways, yes, going into 2000s, Ruthless Aggression. And the only reason why I say that is because when Vince McMahon said this, he said, I need someone with ruthless aggression. And then all of a sudden you see John Cena as a very young guy at this time. And he walks in, and I think he's talking to Kurt Angle, actually. And he's like, why do you think you're here? And then all of a sudden John Cena is like, ruthless aggression, and he's just yelling this. And then he just like, bam, like hits his ass. He's fucking knocking his ass out, and he's just laying him flat. And he's like, and he doesn't do the, you can't see me, kind of thing that people will know him for. But like, this was an era that, yes, like I said, with women's wrestling, it definitely came a little bit more. I mean, yes, there were still bra and panties matches. There were still other things. There was still sexiness, I guess, in the sense. But like at this point, women's wrestling kind of also turned a little bit more versus when it was in the 90s.
Yeah, I think it became a little bit more serious. But what you do see is you see a little bit more. I mean, with the 90s, I think you saw characters. Like you saw more characters, and I think with Ruthless Aggression, you saw. I mean, there were still characters, but what you see is like you see John Cena, you see Brock Lesnar, you see Batista, you see Randy Orton.
Evolution.
I mean, you see evolution, but you have Triple H, you have Ric Flair, you have Randy Orton, you have Eddie Guerrero, you have Chris Benoit. Benoit. But you have Edge, you have Rey Mysterio. What you see are people, right?
True.
Like you don't see as many, gimmicky characters.
Yep.
You don't see as many. I mean, yes, you have the evolution. I think even in the 2000s, I don't know if the 2000s had the corporate ministry. Was that in the 90s or was that in the 2000s?
That was actually much later in the 2000s. That was actually like 2010s, I think.
2010s. But I mean, we have all these people. I mean, Randy Orton was the legend killer. That was like his whole gimmick. He was like that cocky heel. I mean, he was one of like the youngest world champions. I mean, Batista, we know Batista now because he's an actor, but he was an animal back in the early 2000s. Like,
I mean, hold on, we're not even going to mention that. I'm going to mention this. Brock Lesnar
I hated Brock Lesnar. I still hate Brock Lesnar.
I understand you do, but at the time, this dude was known to be one of the strongest, at least at that time, because like you got him against like the Big Show. You got Mark.
Well, he left UFC to join the.
Correct, but he was originally. He was started at WWE, then he left to go to UFC, and then he actually at one point went to the NFL, and then came back and did all that. But the point I'm trying to make is at the time Brock Lesnar was one of those guys like you just didn't want to fuck with, because at the time like him, John Cena, The Rock, Batista, like a few of these guys as well as Triple H and stuff, these guys would all.
I dig the way he looks now.
Really?
Like with the beard, with the
lumberjack
beard and like
kind
the
of
longer.
look. I mean,
dig
that's
the way
kind of weird. I don't know.
I dig the way he looks now. He looks.
Right.
He looks like
maybe
a
I'm different than you in that sense, but
he looks like a normal person. But
right,
yeah, Brock Lesnar was a badass. I mean, we would be at a loss to say that the early 2000s did not start with Y2J, because
true, you are correct.
Y2J literally like we had these things all through the early like 99s.
Yeah,
with. I'm coming. Like,
he's like, I'm coming. Who's this guy? I'm coming.
We had these things of like, what is happening right now? And then, I mean, obviously the whole Y2K thing, we were all like, oh, what is happening? And then, 2000s came and we got Y2J.
AKA Chris Jericho. And then I was thinking about it because like the Hardy Brothers, those guys originally started, I believe, in the 90s, but they did bring an essence.
The Hardy Boys.
The Hardy Boy. Well, him and those two and Lita. Because they all kind of filled in the blank there, but then like again, and I'm gonna say this too.
What was
okay,
what's his name? I'm gonna look him up.
You keep looking him up, and then again, you saw a lot of. I was gonna even say like a lot of the managers for a lot of the wrestlers were also still female. So you got like Tori Wilson, you got Stacy Keibler, you got Sable, you got I think Lita. There was
Gangrel. Remember Gangrel?
Heck, I don't even. I think you'd have to show me. I don't like the name. Doesn't sound familiar, but I'd have to like
try
see.
Turn it around.
Let's see. Oh
God, he used to do like these like bloodbaths.
Oh, okay.
When he came, but he used to like when he did his like intro.
Yeah.
He used to come out like, and he's doing like what he would do in the picture. Like he would do this, and like he would come out of the floor. And like they would have like the red lights and the fog, and he would come out and
I know he had like it was like a vampire gimmick, right?
Because he has like dental implants of the fangs, because that's kind of like his gimmick. But yeah, he was like a vampire.
Well, since we're mentioning Gangrel here, and I know that was kind of more like the late '80s, early '90s. Another weird character. I know
he was like 98 to 2001.
Oh, was he? Oh. Okay, fair enough. So another weird guy that was also part of the 2000s was, and I know we're going to mention him probably here shortly, is the Boogeyman. This guy, when you saw him on live TV and you saw him at an event, so like literally John Cena's doing an interview, he'd open a door and then you'd see him just holding like a thing of worms or like a brain or something, and he'd go,
oh, that was live worms, and he would shove them in his mouth.
Like, he had this weird laugh and this like weird talking voice, but like, I'm the Boogeyman, and he'd go into this like promo, and you're just like, John Cena's like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Yeah, he had this like painted face, and sometimes he would like smash clocks on his head.
Yes. And it was just a weird character. Like he only did it for so long, and I think they stopped it at one point. But like, I think occasionally down the road they did bring him back a couple times. But like, again, anyways, with Ruthless Aggression, I mean, like, yes, there are so many characters. I know Eddie Guerrero, especially like, yes, he was in the 90s as well, but like the early 2000s, man, especially like that I know he died. I think it was like 2004 or 5, maybe. It was early or like mid 2000s, I think. But like, again, like him, Rey Mysterio was up and coming. The 619, man. And I mean, people still know that move till this day. Like, when you have wrestlers that actually make great moves and they still use it to this day, like, when you have like the Tombstone or, like the Rock Bottom or, like the people's elbow, like you have these moves that are just so iconic. Like Brock Lesnar had, it was the F1, I think it was the F15 or the F150 or whatever.
I think it's the F5.
F5.
Yeah.
So like, you see what I mean? Like people would be like, they know those moves.
Owen Hart died in 99.
Oh, that's right.
I was watching that.
That was the one where he was on a cable, right? And they jumped down, and he noticed that he was kind of dangling. Is that the same individual that I'm thinking of, or is this somebody else?
Yeah, he was supposed to be coming out as like
Almost like a Superman look, right? Wasn't he supposed to like?
Yeah, he was coming out as like the blue something.
Yeah, it was supposed to be another gimmick, I think, right?
Yeah, he was coming out as another gimmick, and then he was supposed to come from the top and be lowered down.
Yeah, but it didn't.
But the cable either wasn't attached or the cable broke, and he fell all the way down.
And I know, right? And that was Stu Hart's brother, I think, right?
That was May 23rd, 99.
Yeah, I mean,
we were watching that.
Yeah, most people. Well, the problem was the worst part of this whole thing is that actually a lot of people really thought it was an actual gimmick. It was supposed to be the whole act.
Me and my friends, when we were watching it, like we knew instantly like it was real. Like when we knew it was real. Like when the announcers like kind of just stopped like talking like it like because normally like when they're talking like they have like these like really excited like oh my god like
yeah.
But when they started like we just don't know what's going on. Like they talked in a normal voice, and we were like, "Shit, something's like really going down."
Well, I mean, I'm gonna tell you though, like,
and they did not go to the ring. Like the camera was just focused on them. And,
and it's like I said. I mean, we have unfortunately like, a lot of deaths in the 2000s where again, like Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit was a big scandal that was going on at that time, and unfortunately, like, and a lot of it, and what sucked about it is like they covered a lot of that shit up. And then many years later, they brought up like what actually happened and all this other stuff. But WWE has been known to cover a lot of deaths. Like they've just been trying to like hide it as best they can, but they can't, and that's the unfortunate part. And so, again, I know we've talked about a lot of these characters like going forward, but again, like I'll just say this real quick is like, the extreme matches, like, the TLC matches, the Hell in a Cell stunts, Jeff Hardy diving off of everything, Mick Foley passing a torch to a new gen. Like it's true. I mean, like at this time they had some of that extremeness, but like there was a time, which we're gonna get in a second, is like they had to shift. They had to shift this extremeness, this hardcoreness, into kind of what it is today, this PG era, because like, by the late 2000s, WWE kind of dials down the violence and the profanity. Sponsors, like Fox was a big one. They push for family friendly products, and again, did PG kind of kill the wrestling, vibes, or did you just modernize it into the next generation? Honestly, I think it really kind of dialed it down more. But I think now, like when you're looking at it, I mean, some of it's okay. I mean, some like Bray Wyatt, I think is one of my favorites of the newer, like now, because unfortunately he died too. But like he brought an essence of some of the older stuff and brought it into a newer realm.
I liked the gimmick of Bray Wyatt, which is, I mean, when you're talking like Undertaker and his gimmick, I think Bray Wyatt's gimmick was the closest that they've ever come to having a gimmick like that.
The Fiend was like, that was the thing. I mean, like some of the other wrestlers like Roman Reigns, like Seth Rollins, some of those, like it's all right, but it's not the same. You know what I mean?
It's definitely not the same. And I mean, I don't think that PG killed wrestling. I don't watch wrestling now, but I think it's just because I'm just not interested.
Well, honestly,
in wrestling, but
I mean, I think the only benefit, I guess, now is like, it's nice to see that, when you're talking about, like, for example, like Cody Rhodes, his father being Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, he brings it into like the American Nightmare, and doing all that gimmick. Like, it's nice to see that families are still like being a part of the wrestling tradition, but at the same time, like we're saying, like the whole PG, the whole, kind of dialing it down a bit. I mean, half the shit that you would see in at least the 90s. No, I mean, if you try to see it today, everyone's like, what the fuck is this shit? And like, and they probably won't cancel it.
I mean, I loved the whole gimmicks with like I said, I mean, NWO, the whole DX, like that whole thing, like that was to me some of the best stuff like WWE has ever done. Like,
yeah, I mean, but
that was the funniest stuff. Like, yeah, it was edgy. It was raunchy, but it was some of their best stuff.
Well, I mean,
they've ever done.
Even some of the early 2000 stuff. I mean, it wasn't okay. We'll say it's maybe not as great, but at least some of that stuff that they brought in the first few years of like the 2000s, like they still had edginess. They still had that creative.
Oh, yeah,
vibes.
I mean, I was still watching it then. I think somewhere within the 2000s is when I stopped.
Well, yeah, because at that point it just like you said,
like when the Rock left and then Stone Cold left, and I mean it was like a lot of these guys had left. It was like, there's really, I mean, beyond maybe John Cena and some of the other guys, like, I'm just not interested in any of these guys. Like,
no, and you're right. I mean, a lot of them when they started to come in and start kind of taking over the whole WWE, it really didn't give it that chance to really become, you know, what it should have been a while back. But like, I think now it doesn't. To me, it doesn't vibe anymore, and I agree with you on that because even the games, you know, that you would play, like the 2K stuff that's going out. I mean, no, man, I get it. Like, it's cool that you might play as like certain characters or whatever, but like
2K25 is on the PlayStation Plus. If that tells you anything, that's the game that just came out. Like,
like not too long ago.
It's on PlayStation Plus for free.
Right. I mean, if that says anything, and
if that tells you the state of the WWE video games, like, I absolutely loved Raw versus SmackDown, and one of the reasons why I loved it so much is like when you were creating a character, for one, at least on 360, I don't know how it was on anything else. You could actually when you had a playlist of music on your 360, you could import your own music, and you could use your own music as your entrance music. So I would always like, I would create my character, and then I would like, oh, I want this song as my intro music, and I would have like, so I would like download like the NWO music because it wasn't like in
the game,
But like, if I had, you know, if I was listening to Korn or I was listening to whatever, like I could put that song in and have it as my intro music, and now it's kind of like, well, shit, now I can only use the music that's on here because.
Well, it's true because, and I'm thinking about it. The reason why I would say one of my favorites was, you know, SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain. The reason it was only because one of the things was, I remember like in a mode. I think it was like if you were like in the career mode or something, like you could buy like it was like in game stuff. Like you wouldn't actually like have to go like do what you do now and like buy the like, okay, it's $10 to go buy this. No, like because you had to work for it. You had to earn the money. So like for me, I was always buying like the new like legend characters or like the new like outfits that they had or whatever. But like. There was something a vibe about it that like you just because you were creating your journey, your career, whatever, it wasn't really staged because you could go one way or the other because like you could be a tag team champion or you could be the hardcore champion or you could be like it wasn't just one thing you had to stick with. Like in now games, it's like you had to only it's like a script. It's like, okay, well you can only be this. And then for so long you could and then you have to go over here. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like if I'm gonna play, like I want to be like, okay, you have 3 different options. What do you want to be? Okay, well, then let me go choose one.
It would be cool if they could just make a wrestling game that was like open world. You know what I mean?
Hold on. So this new one, the new 2K25, is supposed to be okay. Maybe okay. I guess in the sense of open world, not so much like Fallout, or like Borderlands kind of thing, but like they're taking the vibe from. I know you don't play it, and I haven't played it in a little bit, but like NBA 2K, like in the open world sense of like, oh, you can go buy your clothes here, you can go do this, you can go do that. That's the only open world concept that they have. Because you can go do other things in whatever the hell it is. I've seen it, but like you can't literally just go around.
No, I think if they made it more open world and they made it like you can walk around the arena or like you can go from like the arena to, like I don't know, if you went to like the corporate headquarters and you met with like your Vince or the promoter. But they had it more open world where you were planning and doing what you needed to do and you could practice.
So basically, you're talking about more behind the scenes as well so that you could.
Right. But things. If you were, if you saw other wrestlers, like you could just free attack them, like whatever you wanted to do. Yeah. But it's more open world and you could do what you wanted to do. So instead of it just being like, you're just going like, you're watching your dude just sit there and you're like, you want to buy clothes? Click there. You want to, it's like
click there.
That's like so boring to me.
So
but.
It sounds like Matt's gonna start talking to some of the video game developers and be like, "Hey, I got a great idea for a wrestling game."
But I mean, if you think about it, like that's what I want to do. Like I want to, if I want to embody my wrestler, like I want to be the wrestler. Like I want to walk around as them and be them. Walk around the arena and be like, I want to actually walk out. For my entrance, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, I want to be that character, be the third person, be like, I'm walking out and I can do my own emotes, like, that's the thing. Like, that would be like the coolest thing to do instead of like, oh, here's my match. I'm just going to sit here for 2 minutes and watch the 2 entrants videos.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I do. I full-heartedly agree because I just think at this point, when it comes to wrestling or even any really sports games, like there's not really much you can do. It's all like you only have like here and like okay, I have to click here to go here, and like you're not really getting a chance to imagine like Madden that you could just go out to the field and just be like, hey guy, I want to train on my running skills or my like my throwing skills or whatever the hell it is. Like, but it's the same idea. Like okay, hey, I want to work on my like submission moves. I want to work on my counters. I want to work on my slams. Like and you'd be like, hey, let me go talk to these guys and being able to go, creatively do what you want.
Yeah.
I do agree. I full-heartedly agree. But I mean, I know we've been talking about a lot of wrestling. I know we've talked about a lot of these wrestlers. I'm going to say it. I mean, there are some weird gimmicks and stuff, but at this point, I feel like we've talked a lot.
We've talked so much about wrestling.
We did. And you know what? It's a good thing, because I will say that, wrestling nowadays is, and unfortunately, I hate saying it, it's a dying breed. It's a dying breed at this point. I don't think it's as valuable, or I'm not saying it's valuable, but maybe just it's not the same vibe. It's not the same hype as it was before, and it's not something that I feel like people will want to continue to watch unless they, again, you really have to.
It still has its fan. I mean, it still has its fan base, and I won't say that it's there are not a lot of fans out there, because there are definitely a lot of wrestling fans that love watching what's going on right now, but I am not one of them right now. I love what was going on in the 80s. I love what was going on in the 90s and the 2000s. I think that was the greater era of wrestling for me personally.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, granted, I'll say it. Look, I mean, yes, I was born in the 90s. I wasn't alive, during the 80s, but like, just being able to, kind of watch some of the like the early 2000s. I mean, that was more me at the time, but like, even now I would say like I've kind of watched some of the, I've watched some of the documentaries. I've watched kind of like some of the wrestling matches. I know that was on like, what was it, like Fox or something like that. But they have like, I think it's on Paramount or no, Peacock. They partnered with Peacock, but like they have that and like Netflix now, that what they're doing. And some of them have like some of the older matches that you can kind of view now. And it's nice to do that, but like you said, it's not the same vibe.
No, it's not the same vibe.
But anyways, boys and girls, we've been talking about this for so long that we're just like, we got to stop with this. But again, check us out on our, our link, go to geeksfromthemultiverse.com. Again, you have all the episodes there. We have all the Evolve. We have our merch store. We have all these things. I know Matt's done a wonderful job, updating all that shit. Check it out, because I'm going to tell you, two dudes, two different mics, and I'm not going to say the same mic. We're trying to give you guys more opportunities to hopefully reach us, and then hopefully spread the word as well. But anyways, boys and girls, until next time.
Stay geeky, 'cause we're geeks from the multiverse.